smart enough to win. That's how the story starts. Learning is the edge that sets your work apart. When the stakes get high and the pressure never stops, smart learning in your pocket puts your business at the top.
Welcome to the Learning Advantage, from Insight to Impact, where we're going to show how smart learning fuels real business results. I'm Deb Laurel, and I'm your host. So thank you very much for joining us today. For over 40 years, Laurel and Associates Limited has worked alongside national and international managers to help them successfully manage employees and create and maintain a positive, supportive, and healthy work environment where employees want to stay and do their best. We focus on making lackluster leaders legendary. The purpose of the Learning Advantage, from Insight to Impact, is to discuss how smart learning fuels real business results. In each episode, we strive to deliver actionable strategies, evidence-based design tips, and real-world case studies that show how learning strengthens organizational health, advances sustainability, and drives profitability. For that reason, I'm delighted to introduce our guest for today, Sandra K. Connor. Sandra is the creative force and founder of Video Grows, a marketing strategy and video production firm serving B2B companies in intangible service industries. She's a graduate of Kettering University and has earned an MBA from Purdue University. With this foundation, Sandra has built a reputation for transforming how professional service firms attract, convert, and retain their ideal clients. Sandra recently refocused her company, Video Grows, in order to provide definitive top-down strategic frameworks to form B2B intangible services into structurally sound, profitable, and stable enterprises, from startup through exit. She achieves this by providing the foundational business architecture that the marketplace has failed to deliver, defining what to sell and to whom, positioned profitability, and scale to wealth building volume. Sandra specializes in guiding attorneys, CPAs, SaaS, I should just say SaaS, shouldn't I? Innovators and professional advisors through strategic marketing planning using her proprietary Find, Win, Keep methodology and A.M.E.S, Asynchronous Marketing Eco System framework. The clients have experienced average improvements of 40% in qualified referrals and 30% better client retention. Emerging practices often see even more dramatic results, with 500% increases, not uncommon when clarity becomes the starting point. Known as the singing strategist, Sandra brings a unique blend of data-driven rigor and creative energy to every engagement. She helps business owners answer one critical question: does my business solve? From that answer, she builds marketing strategies rooted in vision, mission, objectives, goals, strategies, and tactics, ensuring no steps are skipped on the path to market leadership. Sandra can share how short-form videos create emotional connections that resonate across platforms, nurture trust before the first conversation, and can be repurposed in ways that multiply your marketing impact. Prepare to rethink everything you thought you knew about getting your ideal client's attention. So welcome, Sandra.
Thank you so much, Deb. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. So I'm going to get right into the questions.
Okay.
When you think about learning as a competitive advantage, what does that mean in the context of your organization or your work?
Especially here in the 21st century, in today's environment where we're dealing with artificial intelligence as a tool set, learning has to be at the top of the pile. I was first exposed to the concept of continuous learning several years ago. I won't tell you how many, back when I became APIC certified. We called what we did continuous learning because things changed. I was in manufacturing at the time, but things changed technology wise, process wise, uh, recognizing human capabilities as we went along. So the continuous learning piece became important to me early in my career. Now it's even more important. I began to use and explore the possibilities of artificial intelligence, or AI, as we typically call it, about 3 years ago. And back then, it was a wonderful idea to use these tools for certain things, but there were shortcomings. There were sometimes just flat out malfunctions. Image creation often had 6 fingers on a hand instead of 5. So there were a lot of room for improvement. What we've discovered is the geometrically increasing progression of what you can do with these tools and how many there are. And now we have so many choices that even trying to learn what one application will do can be a challenge. So the entire concept of not only solopreneurs and solo practitioners embracing continuous learning and understanding what other tools can do for them, but within an organization of 5, 10, or 5,000 or 10,000 people, learning has to be at the forefront of what we do. Otherwise, we get left behind.
Amen to that. Can you share a specific example where a learning initiative moved from insight to real impact and how you measured that impact?
I absolutely can. Going back a few years, I earned an MBA with a double major. One of them was managerial accounting, so I understand numbers. I sometimes jokingly say to my CPA prospects or clients, yeah, I speak accounting. The other one was strategic management. Now, I didn't actually put that hat on until much later, and it's serving me very well now because I learned the theory at that point. Now it's firmly in practice. So when I put my framework together that you've already mentioned, and thank you for that, but starts with the business vision, the mission, the objectives, the goals, and those two things are different, and then strategies and tactics in that order, in that hierarchy. Once that is applied to a business of almost any size, even one person or 1,000 or more, if that hierarchy is in place, that helps everything fit together to serve the business in a very well organized way. So once I recognize that not only is strategic management the theory a good idea, but putting it into practice in a structured and easily understandable way helps just about any type of business. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I can serve anybody, because as we know, if we don't narrow down who we work with and who we serve with, we kind of end up attracting no one and serving not anyone well. So I chose deliberately B2B intangible services because those are the folks who, well, just like you and I do, have the most challenge with explaining to people who they are, what they do, how they help, and why you should do business with us. Often that framework was missing, as I discovered in talking with my clients who often came to me and said, I need a video. Great. What do you need it for? Uh, well, I'm probably going to put it on my website, was the answer I would often get. Okay. And who's your target market? And sometimes I just got blank stares. So that was the driving force behind the pivot that I did with my business, to make sure that people have that foundation in place before they start building and buying or paying for all sorts of tools, trying to get what everyone wants, which is more clients.
Okay. What do you see as the biggest barrier preventing organizations from fully embracing lifelong learning, and how do you think we can overcome it?
Honestly, Deb, it's one I think probably everyone has encountered or used as a reason, if not an excuse. Time. We don't have time for that. We can't afford for people to spend an hour or 2 hours a week learning something, when in fact the payback, the return on that learning could in fact help someone discover the solution to a problem. If they just had the time set aside to maybe kick up their feet at their desk and think about, I have problem A. What might the solutions be to that? Let me think through options B, C, D, E, work on which one might work best. So if we can get beyond the obstacle of thinking that we don't have the time to put into continuous learning, we might actually be able to get legs up on our competitors. And I'll even go so far as to say, as a nation, reclaim our leadership position in the world. Let people learn.
And they are constantly learning anyway. Are we helping them focus that learning? Are we helping them use that learning to make a difference?
Yes.
And when you think about the consequences of not allowing people to learn, having them just go blindsided, narrowly sighted toward one goal without thinking about anything else, we're going to be setting our organizations up to fail.
Mm-hmm. And I would hope that it's more, well, I should say, better minimized than it once was. But I have a feeling it isn't. And that is that age old expression that people would say, it's not my job. So, yeah, maybe it's not your job at the moment, or maybe it is outside the scope of what you've been told to do. But if you just widen that lane a little bit and take a look at what else you could learn that might apply not only to your job, but maybe to a more advanced position, a promotion that could come if you just had that little bit of learning advantage, that would help not only individuals, but the organizations that they work for.
In your view, what's one outdated belief about corporate learning that we need to let go of, and what should replace it?
Ah, I'm rather opinionated about this one, Deb. The almighty program. Coming up in corporate America, we could count on at least once or twice a year there being some massive across the board corporate program that we all had to attend that was supposed to make us better at doing our jobs. Granted, some of the information had a level of usefulness, but rarely were we told how it applied to what we were doing, how we should apply it going forward, what the benefit was to us and the company. We were just enrolled and time set aside for us to go to the program en masse. I even want to let go of the word program entirely. Just call it whatever it is. We're setting aside 2 hours, 2 weeks from now, for you to learn more about fill in the blank. Here's why we're allowing that time for you to do this. And here's what we hope you get from it. We're going to follow up with you a month from now to see how you were able to apply it or what gaps remain in your ability to apply this learning. That's an entirely different approach than, all right, here comes the program. Everybody go. You're going at 10 a.m. and you're going at noon. Everybody go.
It would be wonderful if it were set up as you're describing, because we know, first of all, one-shot learning doesn't work very well. And if people aren't told this is why you're going to need to learn it, it's hard for them to make any decisions because they lack context.
Mhm.
And if it isn't followed up on, if it isn't identified as this is something you're going to do, so you really need to pay attention. And this is why it's important that you do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that time is completely lost.
Yes.
And I have seen programs set up, say, for computer systems 6 months in advance, because we want to get everybody through that program. And then 6 months later, of course, nobody remembers anything.
Mhm. Yeah, it's time to implement it and actually use it and do something. And no one has any recollection of what the thing is supposed to do.
Because you got to reinforce it. You've got to use it right away.
Yeah.
How are you leveraging data, technology, or new learning methods to create more personalized and effective learning experiences?
That remains a constant challenge. And here's why. People's technical knowledge, comfort, and abilities to do certain things vary widely across the board. They're very widely from industry to industry, by age level, experience level, what people are comfortable doing, and what I call muscle memory when it comes to doing something. I had a conversation earlier with my accountability partner, and we were discussing how sometimes the best meaning providers of our technology services make changes, but they don't tell us they did it, and then they don't show us what the change is, why it's better, and here's how to do that. So when you're comfortable grabbing your mouse and clicking on something, and then that something is not where it was yesterday, it's not that we're suddenly technically incompetent, it's that it's different. So recognizing that people use different applications in different ways and are expecting different things from it, need to get something different out of it, maybe from week to week, month to month, and certainly from year to year, that presents a challenge for me as someone who's striving to make sure people have the best possible outcomes from what I work with them on, to make sure that at least there is a certain basic level of technical knowledge. And it reminds me of an experience I had a few years ago. I offered a course. Oh, this is going to date me a bit, but I don't care. It was called How to Tame Your Mouse. Now, there was an expectation on my part that people at least knew how to control the mouse on the screen. One guy in the class, bless him, really didn't know how to grab the mouse and move it across the pad and make sure he had control of it in the first place. So he was kind of lost, whereas everyone else was keeping up with what I was showing them in terms of where to click and maybe using some keyboard shortcuts to get things done a little faster. And he didn't get anything out of it. And he was disappointed. At that time, it never occurred to me to ask, by the way, how long have you been using a mouse? Have you played any games on Windows with your mouse? Something to establish whether or not everyone had the same level of experience with what seemed to me like a very simple tool. But if you don't know, you don't know. So it's really, truly important for me to take a pause and ask questions to establish whatever that basic platform is for people to grow from. That is key to using technology at any level, especially now when there are literally thousands of applications out there that do, especially if you combine them, a million different things.
So with videos, for example, what particular technology are you using these days?
A combination. Sometimes I start with an AI video generator that can follow instructions, and I tell it, this is what I would like for you to depict, and it does that. Then there are other sources of footage, B roll. You can also incorporate people like you and I right now are recording a video and incorporate that footage. So depends what the objective is for the video, what its purpose is, what approach I take to making sure that it actually says what it needs to say. That has to be built on that foundation of vision, mission, objectives, strategies, and tactics. Because the video is at the very bottom level, tactics. So if you jump in at that level, it's really difficult to get the messaging right, to get the format right, to speak to even the right audience if you skipped all those steps and now you're trying to put something out there on the internet to attract people to work with you, but then those people can't necessarily recognize themselves because you're not speaking directly to them.
So those of us who are just making a video, thinking that that's going to be a marketing ploy,
Mhm.
had better think again. There's a lot that goes into the thought process of what marketing really involves.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you.
If you could give one piece of advice to leaders who want to build a true culture of continuous learning, what would it be?
Oh, there's a saying, especially it's true in sales. It's called always be closing, ABC. I would switch that to ABC, but always be curious. We have pundits that are often wrong and mislead us, like curiosity killed the cat. Well, I'm not a cat, I'm a human. And I am and have always been very curious. So, short of going down a rabbit hole, as I call it, with something that catches your eye and your interest, and oh, let me learn about that right now. If it's something you need to know, put it on your calendar for when you're going to learn about it. Maintain that level of curiosity, but make sure that it has a purpose. So always be curious and then determine what the purpose is for whatever it is you're going to learn next. And then make sure to apply it. That's my best advice. Let people be curious, let them learn, and then make sure that you have room in this management space for them to apply what they've learned.
And to make mistakes, because as people are learning, it's not going to go perfectly.
Exactly. Yeah. Most wise people will tell you if you're not making mistakes, you're not making progress.
And some wonderful innovations have come from what were perceived to be mistakes.
Hmm.
What's one book, resource, or learning experience that has had a lasting impact on you personally?
There are several, but one that always, well, there's two that always come to mind, but let me bring this one out because I did read it way back in the day when I was still in manufacturing, so it applied. It's called The Goal. I think there's some subtitle that's underneath that, but it's The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt. It was, I think, the first book that instead of being all dry and boring, presented the information in a novel format. It was a story about a guy named Alex who had to meet a certain goal within 90 days or his plant was going to close. So he needed to identify things that needed to be fixed or redirected so that the plant could stay open. Now, I can't think of any better incentive than that. You don't want people to be jobless. You don't want to fail and have everybody pointing at you. Oh, you caused the plant to be closed. So it told the story of Alex and all the things that he found out in a way that we could absorb it and learn from it and still kind of be entertained by it. That is one of the tenets that I live by, although some people say I'm too serious. But I believe that business should be fun. So when we're teaching, when we're interacting with people and expecting them to learn, stories are often one of the best ways to accomplish that.
And Sandra is a master storyteller.
Thank
I
you.
have seen that myself. Is there something you'd like to add?
Oh my. Well, I appreciate that you are bringing learning to the fore and keeping it in front of people because it's so easy, especially when the economy is in turmoil or things are shifting and changing at a fast pace, to lose sight of the fact that we can all benefit from learning and keep it at the front of our minds and keyed in as something that we're going to do.
And I suppose that, not even suppose, I know that your clients have to learn that process, learn your framework, learn how to apply it,
Yeah.
and then get the reinforcement from you in their application so that they can be successful entrepreneurs or successful organizations.
Yes. Yep. And that is my main objective is for my clients to be successful.
Which should be all of our objectives.
Yes.
Thank you, Sandra. This has been wonderful. And I really appreciate your being willing to be my guest and to answer so beautifully.
Well, it was a very enjoyable experience and I appreciate it. And I wish you every success with this podcast. Continue to bring people in and have us put our thinking caps on. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, our listeners, for listening in and participating in our conversation. I hope that you learned as much from this session as I've learned. Join us next week on May 26th as we meet with Sam Kariuki, an accomplished sales trainer and performance coach with more than 17 years of proven experience in transforming sales teams, and driving measurable revenue growth across East Africa. If you'd like to assess the skills of your trainers and managers, to see if they are setting your employees up for success, please reach out to me on LinkedIn to receive a free assessment that you can use. And please remember that Laurel and Associates is always focused on making lackluster leaders legendary, as smart learning fuels real business results. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Learning Advantage from Insight to Impact. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week.
Every lesson, every workshop, every failed attempt you save becomes a map upon the desktop.